I've directed 15 Brilliantine productions, beginning in 1995's Brilliantine, and so this will be my 16th in 2010. And we've done some of those shows more than once, but we try not to let too few years go by before we do a show again. But there are only so many shows that work for the size cast that Brilliantine has. Well, I think there's been not a lot of change, actually, and I think that's okay. I think one of the things that's wonderful and why I adore this program is that it is completely inclusive and that it is a no-cut program, that any kid, whether they are a theater kid or not, and whether they're in the productions at the high school or not, who wants to be involved in a theatrical production and have a chance to do that as a team, can be in Brilliantine, as long as they say they're going to come to rehearsals and as long as they behave themselves. And I think that's one of the great things about this production, because there are kids who've been in this show who were definitely never thought they had any talent until they walked in the door. They probably even didn't sing in the shower, and blossomed during Brilliantine. And not just the kids on stage, but also some of the kids off stage. One of my favorite stories about a Brilliantine kid was several years ago. There was a girl who was stage manager on Brilliantine. She didn't know anything about what a stage manager did. She didn't know anything about the theater, but she wanted to be on show board. She wanted to be involved in the production, and she thought being stage manager would be a really exciting challenge for her. And she was incredible. She was the most helpful, the most cooperative stage manager. She learned the ropes of how you run a show. She ran it like a pro. Whatever I asked her to do, she was able and capable of doing. And at the end of the production, we give awards to various students. We gave her an award. And on opening night, her mother came up to me in tears saying that her daughter had never, ever succeeded at anything before. And this was like a whole new turning of a new leaf in her life, because she now felt self-confidence that she had never, ever had before. And she went on to college to major in technical theater and wants to become a professional stage manager. But I had no idea that this kid had no self-confidence. Her mom said, she's never completed anything herself. And this was a whole new leaf for her. So that's the kind of thing that makes this production worth doing over and over and over again, despite the long hours and the sometimes headaches of working with teenagers. Sometimes as much as 300 kids. Usually it's somewhere in the 200s. But, and I make it a point of getting to know every kid's name in the cast, at least. And I will run into them, several years later walking in downtown Evanston, and I'll go, hi, Susan, or whatever their name is, and they'll absolutely be amazed that I remember their name. I hope that I don't ever get too old that I can't remember their names anymore. But I try and remember all of their names and get to know each one of them. I guess one of my favorite memories is something that's happened in the last 2 years, actually, is there were a group of boys who would come to rehearsal, and they got to be friendly with the music director and her husband, Jan. And they would hang out, Linda would bring cookies to rehearsals, and the guys would sort of hang out at the piano afterwards. And then they found out that Jan liked to play Scott Joplin kind of music. And so at the end of every rehearsal, they would say, play us off, Jan. And he would start doodling some ragtime kind of music, and all of them would flail their arms and start dancing. And there were these boys, and then the girls would join in, and pretty soon the entire cast at whatever rehearsal was dancing off. And so on closing night, at the end of the show, Richie, one of the kids, got up and said, play us off, Jan, and the whole cast danced off stage at the end of the performance. It was wonderful. I mean, I remember kids coming to auditions and not thinking they had any talent at all, and just blowing us away with particular. I remember one kid who came to auditions, never had sung before in his life, except maybe in the shower, and walked in and got the lead. He was incredible. A voice, he had no idea he could sing. and was a wonderful lead in How to Succeed. Oh, that must be 7 or 8 years ago now. But it's also exciting to spend time with the kids who are the theater kids at the high school, for example, who look at Brilliantine as a different kind of program. It's a different kind of performing because they're able to be a little bit more relaxed. There's the competitiveness of being in the theater is not there with Brilliantine. And so they can be themselves and they can be funny and they can show off if they need to show off, but they also respect all the other kids in the cast, and the cast respects them. And it's a beautiful mix of those that are theater kids and those that are definitely not. And even, I think, one of the things that's wonderful about the program that is not something that I do, but something that Cindy Schoeneman does with her choreography is that every kid, regardless of whether they have 2 left feet and no talent at all, gets to be in the front row at some point so that they have their moment to shine. And that's what this program is all about. Well, I think Brilliantine provides several things that other programs in the community are not providing. One, of course, is the opportunity to be in such a huge program with so many other kids. But it provides an opportunity for kids to socialize with people who aren't in their clique. It provides an opportunity for kids to do something they might be scared to do otherwise. It keeps them busy evenings and weekends during the winter, and there's not a lot of programming for your kids if you're not in a sport or in a program at the high school. There's not a lot of other things for them to do. It provides them with a discipline that they have to be able to make decisions. They have to be able to say, am I going to be involved in Brilliantine and come to rehearsals, or am I going to do this other program or that other program or the next other program? That they have to commit themselves to coming to rehearsals and giving their all to something that they've never done before. And the kids on show board get a unique leadership training ability too, because they have to manage their peers and become leaders of their peers. And I've particularly in working with the stage managers closely and with the secretaries who have to call those kids who are late for rehearsal every time, and teaching them about how you can be strict with your peers, can annoy them, can bother them, can criticize them at the same time as being caring and friendly with them, and understand that we're all working for the common good. And that's an important lesson for high school kids, particularly before they're going to go right off to college. I think the growth that kids experience being involved in this program carries with them to college or to the workplace if they're not going to go to college, and then they bring it back to the community. We have so many Brilliantine alum who live in Evanston, and a lot of whom come back and volunteer to be on adult show board, to work as vocal coaches or to work on the tickets committee or the show book committee or whatever it might be. They come back to see the show year after year after year, but they bring what they learned about being in a community back to the community. And certainly my children have learned that, and I think the children of my children's friends, they're all working back in the community together, and I think it's really an important thing. I have kids whose parents met each other during Brilliantine. We have had several kids who said, my mom said I have to do Brilliantine because she and my father first dated in Brilliantine. So it goes back generations. And that's very exciting. I think it's a good thing that there's consistency. I think it's a good thing that the program can be counted on to produce a good production with a broad array of talents from the community. And I think that's great. And it's fun. I feel very good when I run into people in the supermarket who say, aren't you that Brilliantine lady? And I'll say yes, and they'll say, thank you for what you do for our kids in our community, and that makes me feel really good. Makes it harder for me to ever quit. I mean, I think the Y serves an incredibly important function for this community. it's a gathering place for so many different people for so many different reasons. And Brilliantine is indicative of that. It's there for high school students, and I'm excited about the fact that Brilliantine Junior has come about in the last few years, and it's a way of introducing younger kids to the program and giving them an opportunity to look forward to something. I also think that it's wonderful that the YMCA puts a focus on the arts and not just on swimming and sports and those kinds of activities that one typically thinks of happening at a YMCA. I think the arts are what makes a whole person and a whole community. I obviously am passionate about the arts, and I think that it's very indicative of why is important to this community, in that it values the arts as much as any of the other things that make a person whole and make a community whole. My kids, particularly my older daughter, was very involved at the Y as a middle school and high school kid. Involved in what used to be the Leaders Corps, something like that it was called. It was a middle school program, leadership development for 7th and 8th grade kids. She was very engaged in that, very engaged in state youth and government and city youth and government, and engaged in Brilliantine. And so I think that was an important part of who she was, that the Y allowed her to develop her leadership skills. Not everybody wants to develop leadership skills, or should, but for those kids, the Y created that opportunity and created an avenue for them to do that. And I hope those things continue. It certainly does through Brilliantine Show Board, but I think that over the years, opportunities for leadership development have grown and shrunk again through the Y, but I think it's still a commitment of the program, of the Y. Well, I think that the only, I don't know if I want to include this or not, please edit it out. I think the only shortcoming of the program is that somehow we have not been able to reach the entire breadth of the community, that there are fewer minority students from the high school who are involved in Brilliantine, and we are working hard to change that. But again, high school kids hang out in cliques. It's part of the nature of being in high school. And so I think the way we have to do that, to broaden the spectrum, even though I think we're an incredibly inclusive program and involve a lot of kids from a lot of social groups, I think we need to get a group of kids that have not previously been involved in the program, but who may, for example, have been involved in Y programming as middle school kids, to come back and be involved in Brilliantine. I think my dream for the future of Brilliantine is to continue to broaden the students who are involved in the program, to get more diverse groups of students in this program, but not leave anybody out that's currently engaged in the program, and to maintain the excitement of the program. How we'll do that with as many kids as we want to have in it, if you have to add to your 150 kids, it's a handful, but I think we can do that.